Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now, have you ever been in the situation where just like one of these paths you went down led you to another path and led you to another path, and before you knew it you were kind of down a completely different road than you thought you'd be? Well, that's sort of what happened here today. The product that we're going to look at is not just one, but 4 throwing axes from the company Southern Grind. Now, how did I get to these throwing axes? Well, this is where the path began.
So if you're familiar with my channel, you probably realize that my yard looks a little bit different. We built ourselves a patio, but in order to do that, we had to lose some trees.
It's up. Whoa. Woo!
So the first step for us was to cut down these massive trees, and it was a good amount of work. These trees were absolutely huge. It took a full day to get them dropped, and at this point I have a ton of wood that I need to process. Now, I was looking at all these logs and I realized I had some pretty good ones in here. I thought they'd make an excellent target for throwing, but I realized that I never really had any substantial throwing knives or blades.
And so I've dabbled a little bit. Here I have my cold steel Tomahawk. So this has been actually pretty good for me. I've thrown it a bunch, but never really got completely proficient at it. I do like it. It's just a big full-size Tomahawk. And then here, my Spyderco Genzo hawk. Now, this flies very nice, but it's really hard to justify taking a $160 axe and hucking it at the dirt. Not to mention that either one of these, even though they are capable for throwing, it's not really their complete intended purpose. Now, yes, you can do it and they fly fairly well, but I wanted something that would be a little bit more fun for me and my kids. And so that's exactly where these come in. These Southern Grind WASP hatchets. Throwing hatchets, set of 4, gives me something to do, and this is my first time trying them. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned.
And so here I have these Southern Grind WASP hatchets. 4 of them in a nicely made kydex, held into place with this little bit of paracord. Now, these are made from an interesting steel. The steel here is 8670M, which by my research is maybe similar in line to something like a 5160. So it's kind of like a spring steel. Now, the interesting thing about this particular steel is, if I'm accurate, I believe that Southern Grind is actually water jetting each one of these blanks from old large sawmill saw blades. And the key there being that, in essence, these have been thermal cycled like 1,000 times each. And what's really cool about that is it gives them a good quality overall durable steel that's just really hard, durable, takes a great edge, and has all the properties you would want for something that you're literally going to be throwing and bashing off the logs. Now, with these WASP hatchets, there are a couple of different colors. Here you'll see this one in a tumbled finish. You can also get them in raw, which is really cool. The raw is a little hard to come by right now, so I ended up getting the tumbled finish. And I'm looking forward to these. Now, again, I'm not really the most proficient when it comes to throwing anything, really, for that matter, other than a baseball, maybe a football, but certainly not a blade. And I think these are going to be interesting. I'm curious about the balance and how they'll fly for me. But the first thing I see, which seems to be pretty cool, is each one of these is numbered. So number 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's going to help keep track. That's going to help me keep track of each one of the units, basically just to, monitor the condition as I use these and throw them, but also help me develop games. So keeping track of somebody's number, maybe you have 2 players or 4 players, and keeping track of the number, that's going to be absolutely perfect. Now, one of the things that caught me by surprise is how absolutely razor sharp these are. These are super sharp. And for something that you're going to take and throw, I would have thought it would have been more of like, call it a serviceable edge. No, these are just out of the box, razor sharp. And in full disclosure, this is my first time holding a Southern Grind product. I can only imagine what their blades are going to be like when you get an EDC blade, a folder, or even a fixed blade. Now, I guess in theory I have been calling these throwing hatchets. They're technically throwing axes, but obviously you can see here they're not that tall. In total length here, you have an overall length of 11.5 inches, and you have an overall width of 6.625 inches. Now, you're going to have a little bit of a varying thickness as you look at this. However, the stock thickness here is a 0.105 inch thickness. So basically a little over 1/10 of an inch overall. Just beautifully done, as I mentioned here. This one having the tumbled finish. Nicely done. That 8670M high carbon steel, skeletonized for proper balance, and a couple of interesting little features. Here you have a bottle opener, very cool. Again, I pointed out the numbering. Nicely done overall, but if you look at their logo, another cool little detail. As you fit these back into the Kydex, basically all of these align and nicely demonstrate and display the logo. I think that's just a little touch, and that just goes to the attention to detail. I love things like that. Now, overall, all of these fitting in the Kydex fairly well. It is pretty loose, and you pretty much just set these straight up and into place. But you do need this here, this paracord, to hold them in place. They won't fall out, but it's a little bit dodgy. I think the leather option would be a little bit better for something like this where it could wrap around. But overall, these definitely, stay in place, and the Kydex does its job. The Kydex is pretty nice and thick, well riveted. And on the back here, you do end up with a dot style tech lock, so nicely done. Now, I don't know if I would, in theory, really belt carry this, but you certainly could attach it to a pack or something like that. I would probably tend to carry these more in the inverted position to make sure that these absolutely don't fall out. But again, keep in mind, these are really for a recreational purpose for the most part. I think this package looks sweet, and I just cannot wait to throw these. And so here, taking a look at the bottle opener in close-up detail, I think this might be a prerequisite to even starting to throw an axe, isn't it? So obviously, as you do this, you do need to be very careful, because that is like so super razor sharp. But theoretically, well, this has me a little nervous here. As long as I'm careful, I don't want to cut myself before I even start. Did it. Cheers. So it does work, but I would say that's just a little bit tight. If that stuck out straight just a little bit more, it would be easier. Who knows? Hey, you know what? Bottom line is, these are really made for throwing, and now it's definitely time. So yeah, as I mentioned, I had a lot of great logs, and I thought I'd make myself a nice target. So I painted these different colors just so if I do actually get decent at this, I can kind of keep score and make a little game. It's one of those things, hanging out at the patio, having a fire, and just wanted to play and have some fun. So at some point, I'll be able to make a little scoring challenge for myself. But in the meantime, it's really just a matter of hitting the target. So at this point, I just want to get started. And so a bit of a disclaimer here. I'm not really going to be able to speak too much about how well these fly, nor really too much about the overall capability. Again, I am brand new at this. I mean, you're seeing me for the first time throwing axes. Never done it before. I'm not even sure where to stand, how far to stand, what the rotation will be like. So this is really an experiment. But again, for me, this is how I learn. I just get in and do it.
That actually hit. Oof.
Nice.
I'll take it.
So all in all, you can definitely see me working through this, struggling a little bit, but at the same time having some success. I'm glad to see that I was able to stick 4 in a row. I feel like that's a fairly good accomplishment in such a short amount of time. Now, I can tell you that even though I thought I wouldn't be able to speak to how these fly, even though I'm not sticking them all, they do fly perfectly straight. And that is what I've noticed. I mean, these do fly literally straight. And even if I don't hit square with the tip, and these, you can see my rotation was fairly consistent. A couple of these with the almost identical same rotation. This one here, obviously a little bit less. That's a nice hit there, straight on. But these ones hitting with the sort of upper tip of the blade there. So overall, I gotta say, these do fly nice and straight.
Oh no. Oh man.
So as you could hear, these do have an interesting ring to them. Do you think Zach had anything to do with choosing the overall pitch of these? Oh, Zach? Who's Zach?
So if you're not familiar with Southern Grind, Zach Brown of the Zach Brown Band, the rock band, is the owner of Southern Grind. So very cool. And the fact of the matter is, I think rock and roll and blades definitely go very well together. I mean, me personally, I'm a rock and roll guy. I've been playing in a band forever. And so, you know, I like blades, and I can tell you, blades and rock, a perfect mix. So getting these Southern Grind WASP throwing axes in my hands, very cool. Now, was I perfect at this? No, but bottom line is I started to get a feel for it, and I can only imagine that after a little bit of practice, this is actually going to be really fun. So at this point, I think I found myself a nice little party game. You know, maybe blades and rock and roll go together, but parties and blades go together even better.
And so now at this point, let's see how these held up. Obviously you heard some of these took a pretty hard hit. This here being number 1, the edge still perfect. No dings or any damage or anything like that. So number 1 still in just about perfect shape. Number 2 just the same so far. That edge is perfect. On the back side here you can see this took a little bit of damage there, but other than that seems to be in very, very good shape. No worries. Number 3 here you can see on the back side of the point that's bent over just a touch. Not a big deal. Going through the rest of this seems to be fine. Here actually you can see this took a hard hit from one of the blades and actually made a little bit of a splinter, so if I'm not careful that's gonna catch me. So you do need to be a little bit careful once you start handling these after use, just because they are sharp blades, and you know, you're throwing sharp blades at metal, you may create burrs like on here, so I just gotta sand that down a little bit. And number 4 seems to be, again, just about perfect. Perfect edge, just some paint on there. Other than that, no worries. And in terms of straight, all of these still perfectly straight, no worries, nothing to complain about. So quality wise, these have been excellent.
So alright guys, there you have it, a look at the Wasp throwing axes from Southern Grind. Zach Brown's personal knife and blade company. Very, very cool. Initial impression, these are seemingly great quality. I'm very excited to have a good set of throwing axes. I think it's just fun. It adds to my collection and adds something completely different that I didn't already have. And I have to say that after seeing this Southern Grind quality, I am very impressed. I'm hoping these are just the first of many more products that I will get in my hands from them. I do like the overall tumbled finish on these. I'd be very curious to see the raw. I kind of like that, you know, raw look and feel, and especially being made from old sawmill blades, I think it's just cool. So as I mentioned, all in all, I'm very pleased, and hopefully you'll see some more Southern Grind products in the near future. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.
Nice try. Yep. Oh, robbed. Nice try. 6. That's a good stick, though. There you go. Nice and straight. Yep. Oh, nice try.
We got both. I got 2. Take one. Not funny.
Oh.